Welcome to In the Hunt. You can find us on Twitter at MIA In the Hunt. You can find me, Topher, on Twitter at Cochran108. You can find Jake at JMendel94. Tweet us, hit us up, follow us, subscribe to us on iTunes. Just simply type in the Hunt, a Miami Dolphins podcast, and you will see us. Also, listen to us on Podbean as well. Let's get on with the show.
It's the In the Hunt podcast. Week 4 is in the books, and I mean, what else can I really say? That's Topher Cochran. I'm Jake Mendel, and the best way Topher just
was that right? Was that right? Was what we just did?
It's just blah. Like literally, that's the worst thing that could have happened. You know, I tweeted out that the Dolphins could lose and still not be the same old Dolphins. But they always look so helpless. It was last year against the Ravens. It was last year against the Patriots. It was last year against the Steelers. And now it's the Patriots again. I understand you're going to New England. I picked them to win because as a fan, you're going to root for your team. But I'm not trying to back out of anything saying that, of course. But how could you not have any answers? How is Brock Osweiler going to be the highest graded Pro Football Focus player?
I think there's just so many things that we could question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether it's third downs, Tannehill, like, is he he looked yesterday like you had zero confidence in the team because you had zero confidence in him.
Yeah.
It's just there were so many things. There were so many things that, mess with your head while you're watching it.
The third downs, you're not going to win on the road in New England with third downs of this magnitude, we'll go with. 3rd and 12, 10, 10, 13, 8. My favorite, 24, 12, and 9. 3 for 11 on third down. And they're currently 27th overall in the league on third down conversion. And we saw Tom Brady make some 3rd and 11s, but that's kind of the magic you can get away with home. Topher, what was going through your mind just seeing them just like Tannehill look like a confused puppy out there over and over again?
Yeah, like it was baffling. Like the first play of the game was that play to Stills. And I was like, oh yeah,
yep.
maybe. Like I was pumped. And then it just went downhill since. After that play, it went right downhill. And the third down, it's just aggravating. Like, even watching them at home, like, you could deal with it when you're watching it at home.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a home game, because they've won those games. But kind of like, what your dad has said, they overall, like, and this has to do with the third downs, is like they just look boom or bust.
Right.
And it shows with the third downs. Like it's like I'm telling you, it's either a 3rd and 10 with a holding penalty right after that to make it like 3rd and 15.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have no confidence in them. Like they don't have enough success. They haven't had that many successful like plays in terms of like small plays.
Yeah,
not the big plays. They haven't had like the first and where it's on first down and they get to like 2nd and 3.
We spoke about it
very
last
rarely
season,
you see that.
We spoke about it in the preseason where they struggled to chain together plays. We were concerned in the preseason with these penalties, these dumb mental errors, and we got attacked. I guess it was mostly me though. Oh, it's just preseason. Don't worry about it. Laramie Tunsil was terrible. He had 2 false starts, he had a false start and a holding. The Dolphins currently have 10 pre-snap penalties. Tunsil and James have 4 penalties apiece. James got pulled from the game. Gase is coming out and saying it was for an injury. Some people want to say it was for his play. It's brutal, man. These are things you're supposed to have covered. You talk about Sutton done for the year. That didn't seem like a huge issue. Kilgore, now done for the year. That seemed like an issue because I think if you go into New England and you rocket a snap over your quarterback's head, you ain't going to win.
Yeah, and, as far as the offensive line, this team, it's going to be an issue, but I think we're going to tend to overplay that issue.
No, I don't think that, and it's not. It's not like it's an unsolvable issue. It's the same mental errors every year. Mike Pouncey had nine penalties last season. Laramie Tunsil had 12. These are just so confusing where you're trying to build a line, look successful, look better, and it's not that it's always a holding call. It's the false starts. It's the illegal motion. And Adam Gase came out after the game saying literally the one thing you do not want your play caller, your head coach, the person who makes a game plan to say, didn't see that coming. What did you expect? Yeah. What did you expect?
Yeah, I think this is when the coaches aren't in touch with how the fans feel. Like we have experience in this. Like we do. We start out 3-0 and you get mollywopped. Like everybody saw it coming. Mm-hmm. No matter if you were a homer or whatever. But for the most part, like you felt pretty good that this type of game was going to happen. And I was watching it and I was like, why am I feeling this way? I expected this.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of like you were just this is one of those games where like all of the problems that the Dolphins had are just magnified because it was showcased in a loss. Like what did Belichick do? What do you think Belichick did to take? Like what do you think he took away from the Dolphins?
He played, 7 defensive backs almost every play. And that brings up the next point where the Dolphins offense looks like when you play your 7-year-old like cousin or something in Madden and they just run like 3 plays over and over and just like keep pressing the same button. It's the slant that's double covered. It's just throwing it deep to double covered and something over the middle. Who freaking knows? But where's Kenyon Drake? He was awesome against the Patriots last year. The Patriots had one of the worst rushing defenses in the league, and you give him 3 runs, and they were all right up the middle. Where's the zones? Where's the swing passes? Where's the creativity for Drake?
We've seen what Adam Gase can do with Kenyon Drake. We've seen what Kenyon Drake can do, and it's baffling to me that he has 33 carries this season, and that Frank Gore has like 6 less than him. Like it's just so frustrating, when you're seeing it because you know the talent. You've seen him play, and it's just terrible. Like, it's not good. It's like, why do we have a running back if we're not going to use him?
Exactly. And so Gase came out, said they were out physicaled, I guess, and also said that Grant and Danny Amendola were open all day. But that doesn't ignore the fact where, you kind of got to run the football on the road. We mentioned it in our preview, just, that atmosphere, the horn on third down. These are things that you don't think about, but actually impact your team. So when you see Tannehill going 11 for 20, some of the throws were just so brutal. And it's not all on him, but there was nobody on that team who can win a 1v1. You could maybe beat someone deep, but you need someone to make a contested catch. Yes, Grant Moss, Butler last year, and things like that. But it just, Stills couldn't, fight for a ball. And I'm not saying he should. That's not his job. It'd be cool if the Dolphins spent, maybe a first-round pick on someone that could maybe fight for a football. But these are the issues you see with the Dolphins because they just seemed outplayed, out-schemed, and they seemed scared. Because Tannehill, nice. That's right off the dome. 11 for 20, 100 yards, and an interception. I want to hear your take on him, but I'm just going to throw this out here. He gave me 1 fantasy point this week because I played him, and I still won.
The team just looked like they looked like they had no structure.
Exactly.
Like they just played football for the first time. All of them, all 11. And I said at the beginning, like it's just Tannehill. These were the games where if you doubted Tannehill, this was the reason why.
Yep. Is
that when you go 11 for 20 for 100 yards. By the way, 20 was on 1 play to Kenny Stills, the first play of the game.
Right, exactly.
When you go 11 for 20, you're just like, what do you do to make this team better? Like, you're the quarterback. You have the ball in your hands the entire time. What do you do to make this team better? It's just frustrating to see it.
Sure.
That your quarterback is, when the team's bad, he's really bad. And it shouldn't be like that all the time. Like, a lot of times you can just have your quarterback muster up some crap in the end, and you might win.
And I don't know what it is because you're supposed to adjust as the game goes on. The Dolphins can't score in the first quarter. I think they've gone 17 games or something insane without a first quarter touchdown. I'm sure I'm a little off with that, but I'm just kind of going off memory with that one. And it's just where's the spark early in the game? There was no outside zones. Every week it seems like we are game planned for a Kenyon Drake swing pass to start a game. We didn't see that. You're kind of right where, especially in 2016, where the Dolphins had a bad defense, they'd play to keep it close because at the end of the game, it isn't about, time of possession doesn't matter at the end of the game. It's you score, you make one stop, you get the one turnover, and it looked like the Dolphins were doing that. Bobby McCain made probably the best read I've ever seen him make, and that's, preparation. He's looked a lot better. Side note, he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks with knee because of course, and Belichick thought he was faking, so that's kind of funny. Well, a little more depressing than funny. But where's that on offense? Where's the fact that, wow, the Pats were horrible against the run. Even the Raiders were horrible against the run. And this is 2 weeks in a row where the running game is just non-existent. And Tannehill, we can agree, isn't a great quarterback. But the way to make him look really good, run the football.
It's good. And that's what they did when they had Ajayi. They ran the football. But what do you think of this? Adam Beasley had an article last night. Dolphins are 7-12 in games on the road under Adam Gase, and now they have lost games of 40, 32, 31, and 24 points on the road with Gase as a coach, and their average margin of defeat is 9.4 points. Like, when they're down 17, if you're down 17, you're not really worried, right? Like, you're not really worried. Like, all you got to do is just put together 2 good drives and make a stop, and you're back in it.
Right.
But with the team, is the offensive has kind of shown that, like, outside of those explosive plays, they really can't, like, put that drive together to, like, keep them in the game.
You mentioned they have what, 2 scoring drives of 8 plays or more?
Yes. So I did some digging. They had the first drive against nerd. They had the first drive against Tennessee. They had it was like a 95-yard drive where Minkah Fitzpatrick made that stop at the goal line. That ended in a touchdown. But yeah, outside of that, like, they don't really. This is how their offense has been. It's the defense would force a turnover and then get the ball at their opponent's 49, 45-yard line, and they would score. So they have a shortened field. Or it would be basically a kick return, which Jakeem Grant had. Or it would be like those, the wildcat plays or the reverse pass that they did last week against Oakland. But yeah, they only have 2 field goals this entire year. Like, how I thought about that. I was like, and I saw that. I was like, how is that possible that you've kicked 2 field goals this entire year?
It's so true. Like you texted it to me too. Literally, the Dolphins are Adam Dunn, where they're either gonna strike out and it's gonna look miserable, or he's just gonna hit a first pitch home run. It's really strange because Tannehill has never been the boom or bust quarterback. He's been the 20-yard box quarterback, which the Dolphins had decent offenses in those years. But what they're missing is a receiver that can win a 1v1. Landry could do it. Parker can do it. Maybe 3-4 games a year. And who I wish we'd see doing it, and I wish we'd see him being used more, is Mike Gesicki. Where's he?
Yeah, that's, like I said, this is the loss. Like, when you have these losses, you're kind of like wondering, like, the blemishes that you've had and the questions that you've had are now magnified. If I told you Mike Gesicki was a 2nd-round pick, would you think, or would you think he should be getting more balls by now?
Exactly, and I think so. The Eagles had Zach Ertz, and they also drafted a tight end, and he's already caught a touchdown. That's all. Like, it's not like it's. The Dolphins make scoring either look like the easiest thing in the world or pulling teeth.
Or the hardest thing where it's like an ingrown toenail and an ingrown hair in the same toe.
And that's something you think you would see from, like, a team that's very young. But the Dolphins are full of veterans. I mean, Drake's in his third year. Tannehill, I guess I'm just pulling out all the Tannehill stops today. Yeah. But he's 30. We got Danny Amendola, who's older. Albert Wilson's on his 2nd contract. Kenny Stills is 26, which I'm sure isn't old, quote-unquote, but he's been in the league for a while. This team should be able to, put together a drive. And I think it really stems from all these issues, like, are terrible, but the Dolphins have 10 pre-snap penalties. Tunsil and James, 4 penalties each. And people have been praising these 2, and PFF gave them good grades. But... And like, I kind of rolled with it because, hell yeah, like, woo, good grades for us, let's run with it. But nothing has seen me, like, I've seen nothing for me to be confident in these two guys. To see Juwan James get a huge contract this offseason.
I think it's weird. Like when it comes to your left tackles and your right tackles, the only thing you really look for is like, is the defensive end destroying your quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Is it looking like Jonathan Martin and Mario Williams like 4 years ago? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and we haven't had that. Like, let's just be thankful we haven't had our quarterback blindsided. So, like, I think that's kind of like when it comes to your tackles is like, is your quarterback being blindsided while he's throwing it? And you know, Tunsil and James have actually done a really good job when it comes to protecting Tannehill, but the pre-snap penalties, man, like it's what makes the offense like so bad.
Right. Because you need to get 4 or 5.
You can't get anything. Yeah, you can't get anything going. Like as far as their drives, they're averaging 26 yards per drive.
Oh.
That's 20. That's actually no. It actually changed. They're averaging 23.5 yards per drive.
That's so bad. That is so bad. And then, oh my God. You know what?
And it's 26.5, 23 yards for, you know, on 4.3 plays. Dead last in the NFL. The average is 5.7 plays per drive. The Dolphins are at 4.3, dead last. And while I'm at it, they actually start with the best field position.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jakeem Grant.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like, I don't know what, like, is it just like teams are just teams are running the ball and the Dolphins just can't run the ball and they can't make plays?
You know what?
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna go a little homerish. I hope it's, you know, the Dolphins are 3-1. We need to repeat to ourselves, the Dolphins are 3-1. Despite
they are.
They've had a lot of struggles though on the offensive side of the ball specifically, but you hear a lot about teams holding back in the first quarter of the season and trying to find their identity, which could lead us to, you know, be hopeful. You mentioned Tunsil and James aren't giving up sacks, and the penalties are fixable. Obviously, it's been 3 years and we haven't seen it yet, but any week it can just click for them. Just don't jump, you know? But what I'm kind of concerned with is we go back to the Drake not running the ball and Gore being on the field more, or actually getting more touches than Drake this week. Those are things where, yes, they're fixable, but can we trust that they're going to fix them? Because the Dolphins have a pretty scary schedule looking ahead.
Yeah, you know, we know the schedule. It's Cincinnati next week, and then it's Chicago right after that. You just hope that like they could make those changes, and I guess that's like the saving grace that you try to tell yourself is like, oh yeah, they just got to figure themselves out, because they did it, and they did it the first year with Adam Gase.
Exactly.
You know, and I was thinking about this too. Last year and this year, the Dolphins started out really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like 4-2 last year at one point with Jay Cutler. They beat Atlanta. Like they started out like pretty decent. You were kind of like, it was like a fool's gold type thing,
right?
Where everybody else thought it was like fool's gold. I don't think it's fool's gold this year, but you know, can they make these changes now? Do they have like that veteran coach who's in there who could like whisper into Gase and be like, all right, this is what we need to do? Or is our coach just stubborn and is like, no, we're going to keep doing our thing? Because we've been always told with Adam Gase, it's like he has the ability to change and manipulate game plans for each game, for each matchup. And have we seen it?
Yeah, I think we have. I think we see the Dolphins. I mean, I think last week they didn't score a point in the first quarter, and then it went 7-7-14, I think, where I do think he can do that, but those are home runs. So I want to see some sustained drives. I think that's the biggest concern. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to throw
that's the best unit of the team.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to start with my umbrella statement of I like this. They gave up 38 points. I am not worried one bit about the Dolphins defense. I think, we got the Bobby McCain injury, 2 to 4 weeks. Andre Branch.
That happens.
Yeah, Andre Branch, maybe a week or two and he'll be back. And I think these guys are going to be good, and it's just up to the offense to not have them gassed by week 6.
My thing with the defense is, if I told you you're going to go ahead, you're going to go against the New England Patriots, you're going to limit Gronk, and possibly he's going to get injured, you'd feel confident, right?
Sorry, can you edit that? Can you repeat that? My bad, I was reading something.
Okay, if I were to tell you that you're playing the New England Patriots in New England, all right, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna limit Gronk, and also he gets hurt in that game. You'd feel pretty good, right?
Yeah. So can we bring that up? Was Gronk stopped?
Yes, but I don't know if he was stopped by Minka. But you know what? For the sake of argument and we'll add some fake news. He was stopped by Minka.
Yeah, and Minka had a pick. So yeah, we'll say Gronk stopped.
Yeah. Definitely, 100%. And then you go ahead and you have Tom Brady throw for 2 picks. How would you in New England? You think, oh wow, we had a chance. You limited Josh Gordon to like 30, to 30 yards receiving on his first game. Like he didn't kill you deep. You'd feel pretty good. And that's just what the defense did. Mm-hmm. And the defense did all that stuff to they did their job. Like, what else do you want them to do?
Right, and they had a couple rough penalties early, and
Xavier Howard got some bad calls. Like, it was the worst showing of the secondary. But at the end of the day, it wasn't bad. Like they had 2 picks. That's one of the things that I guess that's always going to be constant is the defense forcing turnovers, and it just comes down to the offense. Can you take advantage of those turnovers because they have a good secondary? Mm-hmm. It's good, and that's without Rashad Jones. It'll probably be different next week when McCain is out. Like, do they put Minka on the outside?
No.
If Jones is back, or do you put McTyer or Tankersley on the outside and move Minka back to the slot? But I have confidence in the secondary. It's the defensive line that kind of it just worries me a little bit.
I think we have to take back the name Big Sack Bob, especially after him getting his ankles broken by James White.
Oh my God! Holy, are those things? Have we found those ankles yet?
Dude, I hope they're buried in New England somewhere. Bury those shoes and then burn the entire area of where
that play looked like, all right, Robert Quinn is retired now. Like, he's officially washed up. Like, that was a washed up, your time has passed in this league, you need to leave.
Right, and I'm not ready to have that ship sail. It definitely
didn't. Oh, not at all. But man.
Yeah. We did mention it though, all game. What was Brady doing? Stepping up, and there was no one on the inside that could do it. I was really hoping Jordan Phillips could be the guy, but the Dolphins could not stop the run to the outside because they would attack the aggressiveness of the defensive ends, and they'd throw the quick passes, and no one could get their hands up, and the Dolphins struggled to find that one play to just take that momentum away, even though they did have the 2 picks. It'd be nice if they could have run one back or something like that, because this is a team that definitely is going to need that moving forwards.
And I sometimes wonder why did the Dolphins draft Charles Harris?
He's getting so frustrating, man, because he went off sides, so we knew he played.
It's just why? I just watch it. I'm like, I don't if you told me they drafted a defensive end after the year they made the playoffs, you'd be like, okay, cool, he should be getting some playing time. He's just crap. Mm-hmm.
It's really not looking good.
It's those plays, it's those picks that hold franchises back.
Right.
Is not nailing on your first round picks. And it's not like he can't. We're not asking him to be a stud. It's just be good. Be William Hayes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which isn't special. It's just be a player in this league. Where you do your job.
Show you belong. Exactly.
Yeah. Be Andre Branch. Just be Andre Branch. Just be. You know what I mean?
Spending a first round pick on a job would be a little rough. But,
yeah.
Topher, I think the biggest takeaway from this game is the injuries. Kilgore's done for the season.
Yeah.
And when we look at the offensive line, I don't think the interior part of that line is going to be an issue. Kilgore had 2 penalties. We saw the Swanson rip one over Tannehill's head, but hopefully that's all out of his system.
That's crazy to me. How you're an NFL center and you still I'm gonna blame Tannehill. You know what? I'll blame Tannehill because you're a center. All right, I refuse to believe a center just had a bad snap. He's been snapping balls since high school.
Well, think about it this way. Kilgore did the same thing, but he had more of a butt fumble. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just I think what makes the O-line bad is the penalties and the lack of push and the lack of running game. I think that's what makes them look bad.
I think the penalties are going to go a long way in if they can shore those up. I think the offensive line is going to be fine. I know the Dolphins had 2 shiny new toys in Kilgore and Sutton. But, I mean, Mike Pouncey had 9 penalties last year. Kilgore already had 2. I mean, just give us some guys that can play clean football. They don't have to be the best, but if they can still help... I mean, I think Drake Ajayi is often hit as one of the earliest running backs in the league. He doesn't have huge holes, but he doesn't need big holes. And that's kind of one of the perks you have in Drake. Well, if you play him.
Yes.
And then we got Bobby McCain injury. That one is going to be a little more tough to deal with, but only 2 to 4 weeks. Hopefully he comes back okay. We got Branch coming back soon-ish. And hopefully we got Rashad next week, because I actually think that the Dolphins... We're not going to get too much into this. We're running out of time here, but I think the Dolphins match up pretty well with Cincinnati.
Yeah, you would think so. My mini concern is just, can they keep up with the offense that Cincy has? But, I mean, it's a winnable game. Like, it's not like, they're going to get mopped up like they did in New England. But, it just, you got to have your guys back. And hopefully this week, Rashad comes back and he plays. Like, that's for me, is they plays. And what are they going to do at O-line? Who are they going to put at guard? Are they going to put Larson at center? Like, what kind of adjustments are they going to make?
Washburn, the the line coach for the Dolphins, has a repertoire with Swanson. So I think it's going to be Swanson and then Larson at left guard, which is perfectly fine with me. I think Jake Brendel still exists somewhere in the universe. I could be wrong.
I always think Jake Mendel when I see Jake Brendel, but that's just me.
No matter what, you should always think Jake Mendel. So, we're on to Cincinnati. If you're looking for more of my stuff, if you're not sick of me yet, I've joined Dolphins Maven. I'll be throwing a couple articles up there a week. Look for those. You can find this podcast on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, in the hunt. We are back in the hunt. We are no longer the hunted because we don't have the best record in the East. Or, excuse me, in the AFC. Topher you can find at Cochran108. Me, JMendel94, I have a job interview tomorrow with a job that I would love to get, so send some good vibes my way. Topher, you got any last remarks?
I guess fins up, right?
This week, it's no fins up. We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. But yeah, we're on to Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati.